many of us, we're trying to manifest a freaking peanut. Like, I'm visualizing this peanut and I'm doing my affirmations for this peanut, 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 peanut. We're writing and journaling the peanut. And we don't realize that by holding on, we're not available to the freaking peanut farm factory that life, that the divine intelligence is trying to bless us with, but we're so close, like, it's got to be this peanut. Most of us, we want the miracles and we want the manifestation. We want the magic, but we don't want to surrender. It's like, well, I'll surrender, but I'll just surrender a little bit.
It's not about control. It's about full presence, playing full out, full attention, and full surrender.
What made the sexual encounter blissful was the degree of your letting go and surrender, and you weren't trying to force and control. You were open and you didn't know what was going to happen, but you were fully available, showing up fully, heart open, giving everything. That's when the magic happens.
My guest is Kute Blackson. Now, Kute's a best-selling author. He is a transformational speaker and teacher, and he's known for helping people break free from conditioning and live their true purpose. We talk about the difference between a spiritual awakening and true emotional integration. And finally, he shares why surrender might be the missing ingredient in the way most people approach manifestation.
What would happen if I lived life with that availability? And so I think
taking a moment to bring all of our awareness into our bodies, into this moment, this location, this time. I feel so outrageously grateful for the gift and the opportunity of time to connect with you and your passion and your brilliance and your background and your future. Just calling all parts of me back into my body, dropping two beautiful chords down into the earth, grounding, connecting, breathing up that fiery, grounded, crystalline energy, and feeling our toroidal fields expand, our field of love expand wide enough that we might even be able to encapsulate each other all the way from Katona to Houston, so that our fields amplify each other, so that we already start to create harmony, amplification, opening up a portal bigger than ourselves, sending up the antenna for collective intelligence, for cosmic intelligence and wisdom to flow through, for yours, for mine, for the collective's highest good, and tuning into the spirit, the collective spirit of every single person that will receive this media as medicine, past, present, and future. Tuning into their heart, their fears, their desires, their curiosities, so that the wisdom that flows through, the questions that flow through, the answers that flow through are of the highest service to the highest timeline, so that we might bring more of the frequency of heaven here to earth through our bodies, calling on our guides, our inner children, our inner elders, and the spirit of this audience, so that this media as medicine might provide the exact next step that people are ready for, no more, no less, for the collective awakening and coherence to bring more love than we've ever known into our bodies right here, right now. Anything else you'd like to offer into this prayer, Kute?
we give thanks.
Mhm.
It is done. We are available to receive, to express all that is seeking to be expressed. We are ready.
And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Kute Blackson, what
Ellie Fletcher.
an honor and a delight to get to swim not only in your brilliance, but also in your radiance and in your enthusiasm. I feel right now, my heart feels quite tender. I feel the heart of the collective feeling quite tender. There's so many veils of illusion and so many systems that have been built on unsustainable foundations that are starting to crumble before our eyes. And I think that it's a tender time for a lot of folks, and also a time where it's easy to get sucked into fear and outrage and panic and overwhelm. And I will say that there's been things that have actually really shifted not only my worldview, but sort of my galactic view about light and dark and the way that they interplay with each other. And so there's been, I find, this recalibration. And yet, despite the recalibration, it still feels like the Dharma is true of bring as much light, bring as much of the frequency of heaven to earth through the bodies right here, right now. And you are someone who really, really embodies that. And from the moment that I met you, I'll just catch people up on how we met. And then I'm very excited to hear like how you're personally transmuting things and what level of enthusiasm, which means filled with God, you would share with our listeners. But I want to just let people know the first time I met you, I remember we were at a conference called the Transformational Leadership Council, which I think we're two of the youngest members by a few decades. And so it was so fun to be like, oh, here's this other kind of new kid on the block. And what an honor to be in that council with these titans, with these living legends. Um, and and yet I sat next to you on the couch and I could
I
feel
remember.
your energy. I could feel your joy, your passion, and the simultaneity of like you're anchored all the way down into the earth, but vibrating with this frequency of heaven. And I just remember like, oh, I love this man. Like what a gift to have on the planet. And you told me your whole story, which we'll get into. But before we get into your story and your origin, your fascinating background of your spiritual leaders and the disparate backgrounds of cultures that you come from, like what are you feeling right now personally in this sort of great unveiling? And how are you recalibrating and taking really good care of your heart personally right now?
I've been reflecting. Um, I feel, I really feel as a humanity, we are going through something so powerful and so profound. And so I really want to hold that possibility that something magnificent is happening. And I know it's easy to get caught up in the circus show, to get caught up in everything that is happening as old systems collapse, as old paradigms fall apart, as shit hits the fan. I mean, old economic models, political systems. Um, but deep down in my heart and being, I really feel that something so powerful is happening on planet Earth right now. I feel as though, as a humanity, we are going through a profound healing. The consciousness of humanity is going through a profound awakening, a profound healing. And in any healing process, as you know, for true, authentic, real healing to occur, not spiritual bypass or fake healing or just feeling good, for real healing to happen, there has to be a purification. And what was suppressed in the shadow, what has been pushed down, what has been avoided, what has been disconnected, what we have run from in our own individual healing process to truly heal and integrate and become whole, we have to face those parts of ourselves that we have suppressed and denied and avoided for whatever the reason. We have to face those parts of ourselves that have been squashed into the shadow of our own psyche.
Mhm.
And so when I really look at what is happening on planet Earth, there can be no true, authentic cleansing, healing, integration without all of the shit that is coming up now, as painful as it is, as painful as it feels, as painful as it seems, um, all the darkness, all the secrets, all of the stuff that is coming up for us to see. I feel as though it has to come up for us to see, to be purged, to be felt, to be looked at, to be owned, to be integrated, to be transmuted, to be alchemized, and to be cleansed. And so I think we are painfully, as a humanity, in that very process. And as I look at the world, for me, the world that we see out here in our leaders and our presidents and the powers that be and our systems, the world that we see out here really is, I feel, a mirror manifestation of the collective consciousness of the totality of all of us. So, in a sense, there really is no world out there. The world out there is a projected manifestation of the total consciousness of all humanity combined. And so, what we are coming face to face with as we look at what is out here is ourself, is aspects of ourselves, parts of ourselves. And it's hard, it's hard. And so I think I was just speaking to someone the other day. I think we have to, if we really want to move through these times, one thing we can do is look out here and judge Trump, judge Putin, judge Epstein, judge this person, judge Chopra, judge whoever. But I feel what that will do is keep us stuck. What that will do is keep us in separation. What that will do is keep perpetuating the dynamics. But I think, what I'm really looking to do myself is, as I look at what's out here and what I see that I like, that I don't like, that I react to, that I hate, I'm really looking to turn it back inside and ask myself, okay, what is this reflecting to me about myself?
Hmm.
What is this showing me about myself? What is this mirroring to me about myself? What is this leader, this president, this person reflecting to me about myself that I have not made peace with, that I'm capable of, that I have denied these aspects of myself, and I'm just doing my best, to take ownership, to take responsibility, and to own those projections, really. And it's hard,
Hmm.
going through these times and seeing so much of what is happening. But what gives me hope is I feel that the old systems have to collapse. The old systems are collapsing. And I think at a deeper level, we are in the midst of the greatest spiritual revolution that the world has ever seen. Because all those places that we have held onto for a sense of identity and ego, as they fall apart, it also forces us individually to question ourselves, like, who am I really?
Hmm.
Who am I?
Hmm.
What am I? And what do I believe? What's true? If everything that I thought out here was true and it's not, if everything I thought about myself was true and it's not, and I've tied my identity to this and this and this and this and this, and all of that shit is collapsing, then what is real? What is true? What's really real? Who am I really? And I think that is a profound spiritual process. And so the way I see the world, we live in a world of duality. We live in a world of polarity, interdependent polaric opposites. That is the nature of life. And so I feel as though there is no perfection out here. There is no perfect person, no perfect teacher, no perfect guru, no perfect world, no perfect utopia. This three-dimensional realm is not meant to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Uh, it's polarity. So where there is light, there is dark. Where there is yin, there is yang, male, female, up, down, black, white. Uh, the real perfection doesn't exist out here in this domain, but I think the real perfection that we all have access to, that truth that we feel, that we intuit, that we long for, is inside. Is it Jesus that said the kingdom of heaven is within? And so I think if we can understand the nature of reality, the nature of this 3D realm, uh, it's never going to be perfect.
Hmm.
So when I
Yeah.
look at that,
Hmm.
uh, anyway, I can keep going, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting time, and foundationally and spiritually and esoterically, I 100% agree. I think that our leaders all leaders are an outpicturing of the collective state of consciousness. And I think that the opportunity that we have is to look in, okay, well, where am I in shadow? Where am I maybe even worshiping things that I don't want to be worshiping, like money, like control, like youth? Like where can I like see the shadow parts of myself? And I think that that's I think there's a potentiality for a massive spiritual awakening if we collectively choose to tune into
Choose.
the frequency of heaven on earth, if we choose collectively to become warriors for fighting, for
Yeah.
birthing the new earth and not fighting against what
Yes.
was. Like, what we put our attention on grows. And if we turn into warriors that are trying to get retribution and more hate, more fear, then we proliferate that. And what's also true is that there are 3D humans on planet Earth right now, that there will be a lot of suffering as these systems collapse.
Yes.
And so then to the question is like, okay, well, who am I? Like, am I someone who serves? Am I someone who helps? Am I someone who defends? Am I someone, do I protest when my neighbors are being drawn out of their houses? Do I protest when when women's right to vote is being taken away? Like, what action do I take? And for me, it's an interesting line of, because me spiritually, I very much want to move towards the positive. It's what I teach spiritually. It's what I teach practically. I want to move towards what's coming next on the other side of this destruction, and that it's a slippery slope to bypassing, as you said. And there's so much in the spiritual world of like, oh well, let me just do more breath work instead of calling my representative,
Yeah.
let me just go to more therapy instead of there need to be actual consequences for the abuse of children. And so it's just a fascinating time, because also what we put our attention on grows.
Yeah.
um so I don't know, the thing that is bringing me comfort right now is this idea that while this unveiling is new, right? And while this is legitimately traumatic for millions and millions of people to read about and see the level of abuse that has been happening in all realms, the level of corruption happening in all realms, the actions themselves are not new. This is tale
Yeah.
as old as time. It's been going on since the beginning of time.
Yes.
And so I've been living 46 years on planet Earth. And while some of this is news to me, I've lived many of my days in this body have been filled with heaven on earth.
Mm.
And so the unveiling doesn't have to change that frequency inside of my body. And yet it does require action.
Yes.
Right. And so it's just a fascinating tightrope where it's like we got to fill ourselves up. The same thing, like we cannot pour from an empty cup. And if we are going around in pain and suffering, we are just creating more of the thing that we are trying to shift.
Yeah.
And so, can you give us a window into, like, I know you're an extraordinary speaker, you run these amazing retreats, you've written multiple books, but can you give us a window into like your day? Like you wake up on a Tuesday, you're a new father,
Ah,
you're feeling like a little maybe overwhelmed or sad, or like when you get into the trenches, what are your practices that help you personally to bring more light, bring more of heaven to earth, like recalibrate so that you can live your mission?
I'll be honest. Being a father has been very humbling. And prior to being a father, it used to be all about my practice, my spirituality, my meditation, which I'm a big believer in. My prayer time, and being a father, all of that went to shit in a certain way.
It's changed probably.
And, but what I feel that forced me to do, and it's almost as though I think what we're being forced to go through as a humanity as a whole is this whole sense of separation between spirituality and life. Like,
Mm,
here's my spiritual life on the yoga mat, on the meditation cushion, and then here's my life. And then I'll do my life, and then I'll do my spirituality, and I'll do my life. And so I feel as though kind of even what we're going through now is collapsing that. It has been collapsing that for me, so that I'm being forced to move from spirituality, this is spiritual, and this is not spiritual, to really embody and live moment to moment everything as a spiritual practice.
mhm.
Because as you know, being a parent, time is different, sleep is different, everything is different. And so it went from, I'm gonna go do my meditation at a certain time, to, wow, how do I live every moment with a sense of sacredness, even those ordinary moments with a sense of attention and awareness. And so now, my spiritual practice has become changing the diapers of my kid while he's peeing in my face. And in that moment, can I just breathe? And
Maybe not too deep. We don't want to choke on the urine. We don't want to.
can I breathe and just keep my heart open and observe my own reactivity and get pissed off and frustration and what have you. And so my son has been a profound guru for me in exposing where I'm not truly embodying and living spirituality moment to moment, because it's easy to live it in a classroom, it's easy to live it on stage, it's easy to live it in a yoga studio. But at 2 a.m., when I'm not in the mood and he's driving me crazy and he's screaming and he's crying, it's like, can I put it into practice then? And
Hmm.
so more and more, the sense of this is spiritual and this is not uh, has been collapsing. So that I've been thinking about what would it be like if nothing was spiritual, yet everything was spiritual.
Hmm.
Nothing is spiritual because everything is spiritual. And so nothing is special, yet everything is special. And so in that, there's been for me, a deeper embrace of the ordinary moments in life.
Hmm.
Just sitting there having a tea, sitting there changing my son's diapers, sitting there, feeding my son. I'm not doing spiritual practice, but in that moment, if I can be present with him and present with what's living me is the same force that's living him. And in that moment, while giving him a bath in the middle of the night, while he's, throwing a tantrum, that that's a sacred moment. That's my spiritual practice right now. And
Yes.
it's just living spirituality. It's like, for me, my son, as an example, has become a living embodiment of the Christ.
Mm.
And to practice seeing the Christ in his eyes.
And what does the Christ mean to you?
um, the true essence of divinity, that
Hmm.
true spark of God, the
Hmm.
true spark of divinity
And what does divinity mean to
that
you?
He is, that I
Hmm.
am, that we all are, source. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know if I can put a label on it, but that source energy that we all are, that is living and breathing us all, you
Yeah.
know.
To me,
And so,
I define divinity, if you can define it, but just like I find that when people learn how to turn up the dial on their own divinity, it's a reclamation and a remembering of how creative we all are and how powerful we all are. And so
mhm,
I love that you're like seeing that inside of your son and seeing that
yes,
inside of you at the same time. I
yeah,
feel the same like when I to me like looking in my son's eyes, if I can just drop all of me in my body, bring all of my presence, all of my awareness and just look in his eyes. 'Cause
yes,
he's 7 now, so he's in this fascinating shift of going from, like, pure theta into more alpha, like, his prefrontal cortex is coming
yeah,
online, his cognition's coming online, his critical mind is coming on, his personality is coming online in a way that is, like, more individuated, which almost allows for more of the spiritual practice. Like you would think less because they're less like just full God all the time. But actually, it creates more because it's like the wave gets to travel through the ocean into the other wave.
mhm,
My individuality has to travel through his individuality to get to that similarity to that frequency of God.
yeah,
And also I get to fall in love with him even more as he differentiates more and more, as his personality becomes more his own.
yeah,
And it's just it never stops being fascinating, and to your point, he then very much calls me out, when he's just like, "Oh god, mom, like, are you gonna meditate again? Like, all
yeah.
you do is meditate. It's so boring. It's so stupid. Like, I hate Ziva. Like, why do you work all the time?" And, like,
That's
it's
perfect.
I think it's funny when, like, your company, like, is spirituality and, like, but wait, I have, like, my actual guru is sitting right in front of me
Guru, that is,
right
there it
now.
is. You don't have to go to India; it's right there. For me, it's like watching my son copy me. He's two. He's two, going on like 27. I mean, my son just copies me. I see him copying me. I see him walking like me. I see him sitting, and when I see that, it is so like humbling,
Mhm.
because then I'm so clear, like, wow, I better get my shit together,
Mhm.
and really live what I feel, live what I teach. And so
Mhm.
just that observation of him observing me, and then me observing him observing me, is calling me forward to come into a deeper uh, just alignment, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you could say, in a sense, that's my spiritual practice in many ways. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
meditate and what have you, but more and more, uh, spiritual practice has become how I live my life, and living
Mhm.
and endeavoring to live it moment to moment to moment to moment, you know,
Yeah, it's like
over the
chop
last
wood,
few.
carry water.
Yeah.
If you feel like you have plateaued on your spiritual pathway, if your spirit is asking for more community, more structure, more mentorship, more embodiment, and more real world application, then I want you to know that there is a very special pathway available to you. At Ziva, we teach meditation to release stress at the root. We teach magic to practice embodied manifesting so that feeling good becomes how you create magic in your life. And now, Ziva Level 3 is where meditation and manifesting becomes embodied leadership. Now, our pilgrimage to Greece is closed, but now we're creating the waitlist for future pilgrimages. So if this is something that you're excited about, I invite you to join the waitlist at nextlevel.zivameditation.com. One of the things I love most about my work at Ziva is that it's a whole system. Level 1, you learn meditation that helps regulate your nervous system, that helps to heal stress at the root, that helps you to access the unmanifest, the quantum field of infinite potentiality. And then level 2, Ziva Magic, it trains you in embodied manifesting. It trains you to use your pleasure to pray so that your emotions, even the things you thought were your barriers to your manifestations, become the fuel for your dreams. And now, Ziva Level 3 is where meditation and magic become integrated into who you are, how you lead, how you make decisions, and most importantly, how you serve the collective. Now, Ziva Level 3 is our most advanced container. It is a mastermind paired with a sacred pilgrimage to sacred sites around the world. This is going to expand your capacity. It is going to initiate you into higher realms of consciousness. And this is also where I teach the most advanced meditation and manifesting tools I know, and also the ones that I practice personally. Now, Greece has closed, but we are currently building the wait list for future masterminds. So if you've practiced meditation or if you've done Ziva Magic, if you are curious about how to deepen with me personally, or if you're excited to even just see what's possible, you can join the waitlist at nextlevel.zivameditation.com. Okay, so you have such a fascinating background. I mean, I'm sure you've told it a lot of times, but if you can give us like the juiciest bits, the bits that now that you're a father and you tune into your own father. So for folks who don't know, like what I understand is that your mother was Japanese, your father was Ghanaian. They met and fell in love through a
Almost story
spiritual
I can tell. Yeah.
teacher
Yeah.
and didn't speak the same language, that they fell in love
Yeah.
translating from two wildly different languages and cultures,
Yes.
and had this beautiful magical byproduct of their love, which is you,
Just me.
which to me it's like you are this sort of embodiment and encapsulation of what is possible when we transcend so much of the nationalism, linguistic, like this Tower of Babel that shattered humanity into separation. It's like you, by the very nature of this unification and the love that brought you into existence, you are this living exemplar of what's possible when we transcend these sort of man-made linguistic bifurcations or cultural bifurcations or racial bifurcations. But can you give us like the cliff notes into your
Well, I will say that since we spoke, there's some chapters that have been added that we could
Ooh.
I've never shared before, and we'll see if we pull it out of me, because we could go down some very deep places in addition to the story that
Mhm.
might come out here. But
Okay.
look, I was born in Ghana, West Africa. My father's from Ghana, my mother's Japanese, and my first memories as a young boy was, I remember being around what, age 6, 7, seeing a crippled woman crawling on the floor, and she picks up the sand, the gravel, that this man walks on, wipes it on her face, and stands up. And so week after week, I grew up seeing blind people see and deaf people hear. And the same man whose hand she picked up, which was my father, would look at a person, let's say in a wheelchair, and would say to them, why are you in this wheelchair? You're not sick, stand up. And he put his hands on them and they would stand up. And somebody would come in with crutches and he would say, throw your crutches away. And he'd put his hands on them and they would stand up. And so I grew up with this, and this man was my father. I grew up with this sense of the miraculous, but it didn't seem unusual or special or fascinating. It's all I knew. And so it just seemed very ordinary. Yeah, people come in, they come in handicapped, they come in crutches, they come in sick, they come in a wheelchair, and they leave walking. Normal. Brush your teeth, have dinner, go play soccer, and this is life. And so my
Yeah,
father
this
was
is I don't think I really clocked this until right now that your version of normal
my
was
best.
miraculous.
Yeah.
Like,
I
that's
didn't
really
know anything else.
yeah, that
I
that
would
was
go to
a
school
Tuesday for you.
and I would tell my friends and the teachers, oh, this happened. They thought I was crazy.
Mhm.
One day, because the teacher had concerns about my sanity, came to my father's church, 4,000 people on a Sunday in South London, and sure enough, there's a whole miracle service, and miracles are happening. And so this is all I knew, and I think that was a blessing because I didn't think anything extraordinary about it. I didn't think anything special about it. It was just the way things were. And so growing up with that sense of possibility. And so when I was age 8, I started speaking in my father's churches. Uh, and that was an initiation.
By
And when
choice, or was he like, "Hey, kid, I want you to follow my
No,
footsteps"?
I was more interested in playing soccer, and that didn't go over too well because it didn't make him look great. So they sat me on the front row, and I would fall asleep. And I remember one Sunday I was tapped on the shoulder, and they said, your father's calling you on the stage." So I was thrown on the stage, ran up on the stage, little 8-year-old chubby coot. I'm on the stage, and he said, "My son is going to speak." And I had no idea in that moment what I was going to say, or had nothing planned. But I remember standing on stage as an 8-year-old kid in this little suit, and words started coming out of my mouth, and it felt like a port, something opened, and words started coming out for the next 20, 30 minutes, and people were floored. And then
30 minutes.
something 20, 30 minutes, and words started coming out, and that was the beginning. And so every month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, my father would throw me on the stage, and stuff would happen to me that I didn't understand what was happening as a kid, to be honest. What the hell is happening? I'm playing soccer one day, next moment I'm on stage, and this thing keeps happening, this channel keeps happening, and it deepens. So as an 8, 9 year old, I wanted to try to understand what is going on. So I would sneak into my father's office, and he had a tons of books on spirituality and personal growth, and everyone from Ramana Maharishi and Maharishi Mesh Yogi, Krishnamurti, the Theosophists of Wayne Dyer and Tony Robbins and Louise Hay and Marianne Williamson. So I just started reading books, just trying to understand what I was feeling that I couldn't really put words to, but I was feeling something. And so from a very young age, 8 to 17, I read hundreds and hundreds of books, and I would go to school. My life was I'd go to school, do my physical ed, soccer, come home, eat, read, yeah, do my homework and read for 2, 3 hours a night. And kind of started having these spiritual experiences as a young kid that I couldn't explain, and that was my life. So when I was 14, I was ordained as a minister, and I was given the mandate to take over my father's organization, and I was his successor. And unbeknownst to me, he never spoke to me about it. He just announced one day, "My son is taking over." And as a 14-year-old kid, I was too afraid to speak my truth. To be honest, it never felt true for me. This path that was set out for me, you're going to take over your father's church, and that never felt true for me. My path was basically set out for me by my father, and
Mm.
I was too afraid. And my fear was, if I dared to speak my truth and I dared to express my voice, which is this doesn't feel right. I'd lose my father. I'd be an outcast. I'd lose his love. All of my fears as a 14-year-old kid. So I said nothing, and I went along with it for 4 years, doing my best to serve the church and serve my father and speak and his community and thousands of people. But when I was about 17 and a half, I read a book by a guy called Krishnamurti. You may know Krishnamurti.
Mhm.
And he was a young guy who was being groomed to take over this organization. Uh, and when he was about 28, had an epiphany and left everything behind. And so when I read this book, something inside of me just clicked, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this is what I needed to do. And I felt a huge soul calling pulling me to come to America, that said go to America, because all of the folks, all the authors you read about, Jack Canfield, Tony Robbins, Chopra, Dennis Waitley, Mark Victor Hansen, all of these guys live in Southern California, and they don't have churches. They're doing it in a whole different way. And so I felt my soul literally guiding me to go to America, but it made no sense because I had no college degree, I had no family support. And I think many times when your soul guides you, it often doesn't make sense to your conscious mind, because that deeper dimension of, shall we say, intuitive guidance arises from an unconditioned space. It doesn't arise from your mind or your ego or the past. So I'm being guided. Go to America made no sense, but I said yes, and that's when I knew I needed to have the conversation with my father. And long story short, left everything behind. Told my father I'm not taking over. Retired from the ministry. Longer story short, ended up winning a green card in the lottery. That brought me to America. That was my first manifestation. And two suitcases, $800 in my pocket, showed up in America at 18 years old, following a dream. And my father and I, we didn't speak for 2 years. And that began a very, very challenging process of, shall we say, separation and healing. But that began my journey of sort of coming into myself. Yeah.
Whoa. And you said there was some things that since we last spoken that have come into light, like any mhm,
Um, yeah,
what have shifted?
my mother, I made peace a lot with my father
Mhm,
growing up, even before we met. And my mother passed away in 2017.
mm,
Uh, and her and I were very, 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 very close. And when my mother passed away, I spoke to my mother on the other side. At least it felt that way. I was having a communication, a dialogue with her. And I said to my mother, she's 10 years younger than my father, why did you die first? And she told me specifically, I died first as a gift to your soul. I died first to gift you the complete karmic healing with your father. In that moment, I thought I had made peace with my father in many ways. He wasn't there for me. He wasn't this. He was. But I thought I made peace with him. But the truth is, we weren't super close. I loved him. I didn't carry much resentment, but we weren't like deeply connected. And in that moment, I knew on a spiritual karmic level what I had to do. That there was deeper healing, karmically to do with my father. So I decided in 2017 that I was going to call my father every day, because I had to acknowledge that even though my father was kind of a shit father in many ways, I wasn't exactly a great son. And I made a decision that when my father died, I would have no regrets, zero regrets. And so I started calling my father every day. Every day, I started calling my father. After not speaking to him for months at a time, I'm calling him every day. Just I wanted to devote myself to loving him as my guru, as a manifestation of God, And so I just call my father and just love him, check in on him, and a healing started happening between us. Something started healing between us in such a profound way. I started flying to Ghana 3 times a year to just be with my father. And I dropped all expectation that he would be anything I wanted him to be, that it would give me anything. I just made a decision. If I love my father, then let me just love my father. The rest doesn't matter. And I just loved him for 5 years. Just traveled to Ghana 3 times a year, sat with him in a room, and just loved him. And the level of healing that started happening was so unexplainable. It was really, really profound. And then, when was it? About 2023, my wife was pregnant with our son. And at this point, I felt very much at peace with my father. I went to Ghana, and I remember telling my father, "You're going to be a grandfather." And he looked at me and he said, "I had a dream. I already know." And I told my wife in that moment that my father would not live and be around to see our son be born. Sure enough, my father died the next month.
Mm.
And I felt like it was a spiritual completion, a completion of lineage. It was a true completion. As one generation came in, my father finished his job. I had completed something with my father, and he transitioned out, and my son was born. And when I saw my son, he carries he carries a frequency and a light and a vibratory energy that is so bright that I felt there was an energetic vibration inside of my son, where all of the healing I had done over the last 2 decades and the last few years with my father energetically freed my son.
Mm.
And I saw that my son was free from the karma of past generations with my father. Generations, karma that had plagued my grandfather, my father, potentially me, but luckily not really. But there was an energy. And, without going into too much details, because it's a Netflix documentary, after my father passed away, I found out all this stuff about my father, this great man. I found out he had another family. I found out he had 15, 16 children. I mean, it was Emily, some crazy stuff I
Oh.
found out. Like heavy, 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 like, I don't want to say Epstein level, but, in the trajectory of the deception and the darkness and the deceit, it's like all this stuff I found out about my father. And I saw that the love I gave my father in these 5 years, the service I gave my father, the forgiveness I gave without knowing all this stuff, the forgiveness I gave my father, the devotion I gave my father, the dedication I gave my father, even though he really didn't deserve it, there was something in that freed me
Mhm.
energetically from that lineage and that karma, and shifted everything karmically. That soul work, shall we say, um, I think it opened the field, the space to allow my wife to come through, to allow my son to come through. And so now I was left with all this knowledge about my father, all this crazy stuff I found out. And that put me into a whole nother internal, process of having to forgive at a whole nother level. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah.
there's one profound thing that happened for me, because I was really, going through some anger about some of the shit I found out. There were some things I thought I knew, but I didn't kind of knew, but only even my mother knew some stuff, but we only knew like a tenth of the reality of what he was, the darkness. And I remember in meditation speaking to my father's soul, and I was making peace with my father. Really, I said, I just want to forgive you, because I do not want to carry this energy with me to the next generation. This energy of anger, this energy of like hate. And there was a whole nother level of forgiveness that happened between me and my father after he passed away, where I decided to just extend grace to him. And my father, it was as though, Emily, my father's soul spoke to me in this meditation. And he said, "So, how do you like my costume in this lifetime? Do you like my costume?" And it was as though like he laughed. "How do you like my costume in this lifetime?" And he said to me it was like a spiritual communication. He said to me, "I almost got you, huh?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I almost got you. I almost made you." And this is it's hard to explain this sort of internal experience, but it was this sense of him saying, "I almost convinced you that I am also not God." I was like weeping, like, and it was like his soul said, "I almost convinced you that I'm not God." And I kind of understood something in the soul contract with my father, not intellectually, but on a soul level of like, ah,
Mhm.
a spiritual level of what he was here to teach me, and remind me. Anyway, don't want to bore you with all the details,
It's not
but
boring. I mean, it's
it was a really profound
mhm.
internal process over many, 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 many months of, anyway,
Yeah, that it's like you either believe, like you really believe that there is only one thing and we
yes.
are
Mhm.
all it, and that
Yes,
one thing is consciousness. Like you either believe that or you don't.
you don't.
And right now, and I could only imagine the depth of trust and like when you what you were saying earlier of like who am I? Am I someone who believes what I teach, what I speak on stage, what I do at these retreats? Am I going to choose to believe that my dad is also God even in this
God,
betrayal?
he is also God.
Yeah.
And I can portray him as Darth Vader and kill him, which will only perpetuate the darkness. Or
Mhm.
I can really recognize at the deepest level the true light that is inside of him as well, that is wrapped up in this costume. And that doesn't mean there's not some in this 3D ramifications and consequences that need to be handled, but still to be able to handle it from not a place of hate, to be
Yeah.
able to handle things not from a place of judgment or hate or shaming, but from a place of, oh, I see at the deepest level you are God too.
Yeah, and then
You
you
know,
don't
you
betray
are God.
yourself
Yeah, yeah. And
in
and
that.
and so to hold it has spiritually forced me to hold the truth about who he is, my father, to hold
Mhm.
the truth about who he is, despite what he has done.
And it's so interesting because it brings me back to like what you were saying earlier around like the veiling and the shadows being revealed about so
Yeah.
many respected people in the church, in politics, and medical professionals, spiritual leaders, and it's like, are we going to believe this costume? Like, are we going to allow ourselves
And
to
that's why I
believe
say
this
it, not
costume?
not to discount the pain,
No.
right? Because it hurt finding out about some of the shit about my father.
Yeah.
Like it, and I had to process that and not do a spiritual bypass
No.
in terms of the level of betrayal that I kind of felt because it was real.
And
So I had
feeling
to
the rage, feeling the fear,
I had to
feeling the
feel it, I
sorrow,
had
like
to
all of
process
that is
it, I
God
had to
too.
let it move through, but also simultaneously not allow myself to get stuck at that level.
Mhm.
This,
Mhm. Yeah.
at the same level. And
Bravo.
so,
Bravo.
it's hard. And I think that's part of what we are all here. I think part of this spiritual game, not to make it a game, but part of the spiritual process is the process of, can you remember what everything is?
Mhm. Mhm.
Can you remember what everything truly is underneath it all?
And that's what Isis does. I mean, like Isis, the
Yes.
Egyptian goddess of
Can you
magic and
remember
motherhood.
what everything is?
Yeah, she remembers. She takes the
Yes.
disparate parts of the
Yes.
masculine and she puts it back
Yes.
together and remembers and she births. And interestingly, like, Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and Anna, grandmother of Jesus, they were all priestesses of the Isis lineage. And what I've been getting very strongly in these last few really months is that it feels like the medicine that I don't know if it's needed necessarily if this is my medicine to bring, but it's like the Mother Mary medicine of like holding and sort of like what you did with your father of like, I'm just going to love him. I'm not going to try and change him. I'm not going to try and fix him. I'm not here to heal anything. I'm just going to love him. But it's like, it's a reparenting of sorts. It's this unconditional love. And like that to me is like, I feel like rather than devolving into hate and spite and retribution, there's like a reparenting that gets to happen to ourselves and to the collective. And and I'm not saying, no consequences or no accountability. Like that is all part of this. That's part of the reparenting as well.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, do we want to heal this or not?
Yes.
Do we want to heal these? Do we want to bring these shadows into light or not?
Yeah.
Is it all God or not? And we're gonna really celebrate you. And you've inspired me in this story of like in the 3D of like, yeah, I want to be in better touch with my mom. I want to call my mom more often. I want to see her more often.
That's such a powerful, is it all God or not? And I think part of it's like that cosmic game of hide and seek that God is playing with itself. And when I was looking at my son, who's so little, no one taught him the game of hide and seek. But why is it intuitively that little kids love hide and seek? It's like, oh, and so perhaps the process of life is the process of consciousness, this intelligence playing hide and seek with itself in multiple forms,
Mhm.
and it's easy if it's easy to see God in Emily. You're like this divine being. It's easy to see God in Mother Teresa. She's like Mother Teresa. But at the higher level of the video game and the simulation of life, can you you could say God gets more creative in the form of my father. God gets even more creative in the form of, you name that person that is like, yeah, that's God too. And that is God's infinite creativity hiding itself to see if you're going to get tricked to not see the true essence of the oneness that we are one.
And
And
betray yourself or let yourself fall out of the
yes,
frequency of heaven on earth because of
on earth.
someone else's shadow.
Yes, yes.
And it's I think that I love this hide and seek analogy, and it's like when you play it really well, when like I my son and I used to let him go and hide, and I would like make dinner. I'd be like, I'm gonna go ahead and use this opportunity to make dinner. I would come 20 minutes later, and he would be like, "Oh my god, you found me." And
Yeah,
so if we can, dare I say, I mean, this might be
really.
the biggest spiritual bypass of all time, but if we see this as like a very, very convincing game of hide and seek, like, can we tune into how sweet the reunion will be, how delicious the remembrance will be
Yeah,
when we reunite and remember that all of this was God forgetting for the joy of remembering, right?
yeah,
That the one really does become two for the joy of becoming one again. And that is my prayer, that like this level of division and separateness and darkness and abuse gets to like carve out so much of the shadow, to remember so much of the shadow so that we have even more light available
to
into
integrate
the birthing of what's
integrate that
next.
shadow, the shadow that we see in Trump, the shadow that we see in this person, it's like, I think part of the danger is for us to point the fingers. I was, I don't want to bring this up, but I was talking to someone who was asking me about my thoughts on Chopra and what have you, and I think it's easy to get distracted also by what's happening out here, for us to point the finger as to what this person is doing and what that person is doing. But I think it's important that we really, again, look inside and go, okay, how do I do that?
Mhm,
How do I lie? And how do I live out of integrity? And how do I, because that's the part we have control over, you
mhm,
know. We may not be able to change the government, but I think we can all change ourselves and go, where am I not completely clear or clean
mhm.
or straight or in integrity? Or
Yeah,
that doesn't mean certain people shouldn't be held accountable. We need to hold accountable, and we need to protect the innocent, and we need to protect the children, and we need, accountability for sure, and systemic change. And I think when we can look at ourselves and go, yeah, where do I do that?
yeah.
I think then, as we shift ourselves, we then shift the fabric of consciousness for humanity as a whole as well.
Mhm. Yeah, and then it's not an either or, right? It's not like, oh, we get to be an activist and avoid our inner work, and we don't get to do our inner work and avoid taking action. It's a grounded in being, perform action, grounded in being, perform action. And then I think the trick is that it's like getting really clear on, I'll say my trick is getting clear on like what's my role to play,
Yes.
versus getting caught up in like every the catastrophe du jour, of that every cause is my cause and bifurcating my energy. It's like, no, let me notice like what's alive. Is there shadow for me to heal and integrate? Can I bring the frequency of heaven to earth in my body right here, right now? And from that place, take action, whatever that action may be, whatever I believe is my unique gift to,
In
yeah.
so many ways, I think we are all waging war, and
Mhm.
many times some of us, no, I don't drop bombs. Yeah, but you might drop bombs of self hate in your own self.
Mm.
Sometimes we want peace on the planet. Why is there not peace on the planet out here? And we go protest, but you won't call up your sister and offer her some forgiveness. And so it's kind of, how do we expect for peace to happen out here if it can't happen in here and in
Hmm.
here? And so
Hmm.
I think part of what we can all do is look at, what can I do? What can I do,
Yeah.
within myself? And if we can just start there, you might think, oh, I'm not protesting. I'm not doing what Emily's doing. I'm not doing this. Yeah, but what can I do within myself? Because even if I can start by, bringing a bit more grace to my own self and my own humanity and
Hmm.
my own internal judgment, I think that does make a change. That does have an impact. If I can be a bit kinder to myself when I screw up or when I'm a, bad parent, that does make a difference.
Yeah.
And from that place, right, then I think we can start acting as well.
Yeah, it's
So
a simple maybe example, just like bring this out of the ether and into 3D. Like this week for me, I've been like coming up against like like a looping pattern I've noticed in my business and with the team, and I have this amazing therapist, and we got to like okay, what's the core belief here, and it could feel like the opportunity to shift it, like the opportunity to choose a different thought. It was like around scarcity and safety, which
mm,
shows up in relationships, it shows up in money. And I could feel there was like a new path being paved. I can choose this. And everything in my body was like, no, like you could feel the trauma, like keeping me stuck in the old familiar pattern of scarcity and unsafety. It's to the point now I've done enough work and enough modalities and enough thing that like I know that for me I need to go into the unconscious. Like I'm going to go into EMDR and hypnosis because I for me it's so sticky consciously that
yeah,
I need a different layer of support. But and still I did shift that story. I did create more safety. I did create more trust. And at least now I know what the shadow is that wants to be brought into wholeness. But just to extrapolate that, that it's like if that's all I did, okay, good for Emily. But look at the ripple effect. Like if I'm running Ziva, like a meditation manifesting company from any level of unintegrated trauma or scarcity or fear or lack, that is going to show up in my employees. That's going to show up in my offerings. That's going to show up in my pricing. That's going to show up in my students. That's going to show up in the retreats. And so it's like, even that tiny little shift
yeah,
can have this exponential
future,
change and then reach so many more people. But it doesn't mean that just the healing is enough. It's like you do the healing and then you have to change the action
yes,
with the team, with the offerings, with the transmission. And that's just I'm just, using my own life as an example, but that's go for every politician, for every CEO, for every parent. Like you doing your own inner work, you extrapolate that out, you cannot help but shift the transmission in every single person that you interact with.
for sure.
Even if that action that you're taking is activism. So I'm curious about two things. One,
Hmm.
having seen the shadow with your dad, like, does it discount, does it change the lens through which you see the miracles? Like, do you think those miracles are still real? Like, do you still believe in what was happening? And then I'm curious how it's made you question your own relationship with healing or miracles or magic, and like what happens on your retreats and at your conferences and things.
Yeah, look, I think all of us are being called to a higher level of alignment and integration, even as healers, as coaches, as guides, as teachers, you know. Um, and when I look at my father as an example, it doesn't change the miracles that occurred.
Hmm.
Because at the deepest level, if he's honest, and I think he'd be very honest about this, he would always say, I do not perform these miracles. These miracles have nothing to do with me. I simply see the truth of who someone is and call that forth. And his ability and capacity to connect and call forth and hold the truth of that reality of perfection, shall we say, was very, very high. It was
Hmm.
very attuned. He'd look at you, you saw sickness, and he said, there's only perfection. And he just tuned into that, you know?
Mm.
And so, in many ways, he was able to access a higher dimension of something, right? But we still live in a three-dimensional body, a three-dimensional human mechanism, biology, vehicle. And so I think in many ways, one dimension of him, the ability to transcend and connect, was very developed. But another dimension of his ability to his level of development in his the integration of that transcendental realm in the human realm was not very integrated. He didn't do the mental, emotional, psychological work to heal his human psyche, so that there was not a integrated sense of his own inner being. So I think he was able to connect, or should we say wake up, but it wasn't like waking down into the human body, so to
That's a
speak.
great book title, by the way, Waking Down.
Yeah, and so I think it's a matter of that integration where he had the connection,
Uh-huh.
like many gurus from India and what have you. They got the connection, they're able to tap in, but they haven't done the mental, emotional, psychological work to be able to hold that level of energy that is channeling
Woo.
through him. There's a crazy amount of energy that's channeling through him. It's flowing through him, but the hardware and circuitry hasn't optimized or integrated to the point where he's able to hold that level of energy. And so then, if he's in an environment and there's women there, there are temptations there, it's just the circuit blows,
Mhm.
and the energy leaks out in
Mhm.
ways. And we see
Mhm.
this with gurus, even over the last, John of God as one. There's other gurus, yoga teachers that they had a connection, and it doesn't discount the connection. It's just that the vehicle wasn't organized and integrated in a way to hold the energy and sustain the energy in a authentic way with integrity.
Because it's missing the feminine. Like, it is
Yes.
the masculine transcend up,
Ah,
connect to God, and that is an important, imperative piece of the puzzle. It is the feminine's role to go into the
into it.
underworld, like, to feel the feelings, to hunt the shadow,
Yeah.
and if you have a lot of light without that integration into the body, then yes, the circuits will or the energy leaks, and conversely, if you're just doing the inner feeling of the feelings and never moving outward, then you're just like navel gazing. And so I think that we're meant, and I think that why I'm so passionate about this is because the divine feminine has been so violently erased from so many different lineages in
Yes.
sacred teaching, because women have been prevented from being spiritual teachers in so many different lineages that we really, it's like we're reading half of a book and wondering why we're not feeling heaven on earth. It's like, well, because half of the truth has been removed, which is not the truth anymore. And so it's like if you have the masculine, yes, connection to the divine, and the feminine going into the feelings and substantiating that, creating the bandwidth that can actually hold that amount of current, that to me is where the magic happens. And where even if you look at the brain, right, it's the pineal and the pituitary that secrete the DMT, that secrete the God particle.
Mhm.
And if you only have one or the other, it's only half of the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this really lights me up, as you can tell. Okay, so I didn't do my homework before this episode, in that normally I would have had us come to an agreement on what we're gonna title this episode, but I kind of love that we get to do it in real time, because normally, and it wants to be germane to this conversation, but, the show is called "Why Isn't Everyone Doing This?" And
Ah,
I like and for me, it's about asking these brilliant hosts, like brilliant people such as yourself, like, when is a time that you found something so good that you genuinely ask yourself the question, why isn't everyone doing this? And it's usually the thing you dedicate your life to. It's like, why isn't everyone blank? And so I'm curious, when I ask you that question, what comes up for you?
to the question, why isn't everyone doing this?
Yeah, why isn't everyone doing this? Like the tool, the spiritual thing, the healing, the thing that your teaching is known for. Why isn't everyone?
You know, I think, why isn't everyone surrendering?
Mm-hmm.
Simply, why isn't everyone just truly surrendering?
Mm-hmm. And what does
We,
that mean for you? Because I think for a lot of people that
yeah,
I teach surrender
we,
because I need it. Um,
we have this misconception that surrender is weak, or surrender is passive, or surrender
Giving
is
up.
up, or surrender is waving a white flag, or if I surrender, I'm not going to manifest my goals, dreams, and desires, and I'm going to be a doormat, I'm going to be left behind. And so there's this weak, and surrender is feminine in a certain way. There's a feminine nature to
Mhm.
surrendering and opening. And so there's this myth that surrender is weak. And I'm actually saying, no, what if you surrendered? What if you actually you didn't get less, but you got more. You
Mm.
got more than you could have planned, more than you could have imagined with your mind, more than you could have tried to control. And I think if you look at the truly, when I look at the truly great ones, Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali, great in their own individual way, Mandela, Martin Luther King, uh, Malala, right? When I look at the truly great ones, whether they knew it or not, at some level they all got to the point where they had to surrender, where they had to let go of the idea of who they thought they should be, the idea of how they thought their life was going to play out, and the life that they had planned and projected. Maybe something happened, an event happened, an intuition happened, but they all got to a point where they had to let go of that idea. And in that letting go, they went beyond their own human capacity to make shit happen and control and manifest. And they tapped into something else, another energy, another stream, life. And I think that's when we truly let go and surrender, that's when life starts to manifest through you with a
Like you're
capital R.
making space for the divine, and if
Yes.
you try and hold it all yourself, there's no
Life
space for
starts
the
to manifest
divine.
through you. Grace starts flowing. And
Mhm.
that's when the miracles and the magic truly happens. When I look at the best things in my life, and I challenge everyone to do this, if you look at the most amazing things in your life that have ever happened to you, for me, meeting my wife and all these incredible things, most of it I didn't plan. It kind of happened in the process of living life. I wasn't just sitting there on the sidelines. It just kind of happened in the process of living life. And that's when it's like, wow, I could not have planned that with my own limited ego self. So I think
Mhm.
the ego-based paradigm is all about make it happen, manifest it, make it, know what you want, know what you want. But many times what we think we want is just what we think we want based on who we think we are, which is an illusory identified self based on childhood conditioning. So then you get what you set out to try to manifest, only to realize that's not what I really wanted, and I'm not happy. And so I'm inviting people not to simply ask the question, what do I want? This limited sense of I, but really ask the question, like, what is it that life is seeking to manifest through me? The
Mm.
real I, capital I. What is life seeking to express through me? And if you can, I'll coin a term. Let's move from goal setting to soul setting. So if you can just expand and open to receive the deepest expression, the deepest impulse, the deepest alignment, that sense of this is what life is seeking to express.
Mm.
And then if you can then align with that, bring your mind and your ego and your personality and your visualization and your affirmations and your goal setting now in sync with what is true. That's when you're working, I think, in harmony with the flow versus trying to make something happen that's not really in alignment with the flow. And so
Yeah.
that's, I think, when miracles happen. So I say yes, most of us, we want the miracles and we want the manifestation, we want the magic, but we don't want to surrender. It's like, well, I'll surrender, but not, I won't surrender this and I won't surrender that, and I'm not going to, but I'll just surrender a little bit. And so it's like many of us, we're trying to manifest a freaking peanut. Like, I'm visualizing this peanut and I'm doing my affirmations for this peanut, 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 peanut. We're writing and journaling the peanut because that's all we can see with our conditioning and our childhood and our parents and this sense of who we think we are. So now we're trying to manifest this little peanut, and we don't realize that by holding on, we're not available to the freaking peanut farm factory that life, that the divine intelligence is trying to bless us with, but we're so close. Like, it's got to be this peanut. It's got to be this person. I'm going to make this person my soulmate. But the universe is trying to show you they're not your soulmate. There's something way beyond that you can't even imagine right now. And so I think
Mm.
that's when That's when the magic happens.
Mm. I love this so
So
much, and I
surrender.
can see the ways that I do it from the
Example,
known.
example of the meeting my wife. I mean, I could go down the list
So
of
I'm curious if I don't know exactly because I've not been on one of your retreats. I've not worked with you. Is there a way, like in our last like 10 minutes together, could you walk us through an exercise, either a prayer or a manifestation, or you could do something on me where like something tangible that people, if they feel like I'm just manifesting the peanut, I'm in control. Like, and I loved what you said of this prayer of, hey, nature, like, what do you want to flow through me? You know, like
yeah.
that really felt like, oh, yes.
Before I say, like, I would just invite everyone to just consider this, and maybe I'll ask a couple of questions to leave people with. If people are like surrender, that's okay. Let's take the conversation out of a spiritual, conversation. I want everyone to just imagine your most beautiful. It doesn't even have to be your most beautiful, but your most beautiful sexual experience
Mm,
where you made love. And it was beautiful. Feel that for a moment, right? And if you're honest, if you recall what made it beautiful, was it because you came to the sexual encounter with a laptop notepad, and then you have the entire next 2 hours? Okay, honey. Okay, Emily, we're gonna make love, and it's gonna be for exactly like an hour and 47 minutes. And in minute one, you're gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. We're gonna do this. You're gonna do this, and this, and you have the entire sex
defense,
experience
whiteboard,
out, whiteboarded out with an entire plan and your whole team behind you
stick
orchestrating.
figures.
No, what happened is you showed up and you were available and you were open, and what happened is you let go. What made the sexual encounter blissful
Mm,
was the degree of your letting go and surrender, and you weren't trying to force and control. You were open, and you didn't know what was going to happen, but you were fully available, showing up fully, heart open, giving everything. That's when the magic happens.
mm,
You all go, oh yeah, lovemaking, yeah, so ecstatic. But what if we actually then said, what would happen if I lived life with that availability, with that
mm,
openness? Doesn't mean you sit there and do nothing. No, you're participating fully, you're engaging fully, you're giving everything, but you're not trying to force your partner to move left, move right. You're available and you're flowing with. To me, real surrender is you're allowing life to lead you,
mm,
and life has an intelligence. There's
mhm.
one thing my father said to me when I was a young kid. He had a lot of wisdom, and when I would stress, he would say, "Why are you stressing?" I said, "Because of this and that." And go, did you bring yourself here? So what do you mean? Did you bring yourself to this planet? I'm like, well, no, you kind of did. Well, so who brought you here? I don't know, something, right? Go. If you didn't bring yourself here, then perhaps that same intelligence that birthed you into existence, if you're willing to trust it and listen to it and follow it, it knows how to fulfill itself through you if you're available and if you're open.
Mm,
And so I think part of it is just asking and feeling, attuning. What is life seeking to express through me? And feel that, connect to that, follow that. And I think that's when the magic really, really, really happens. The deeper I go, it's funny, the deeper I go, the less choice I have, the freer I am. The more an ego I've been, the more choice I think I have. I could do that, but the more limited I've been. Because when you truly surrender, you will feel that there is a natural flow in life. You will feel that flow. And I think when we truly follow that natural authentic flow, that's when I have found you end up in the right place with the right people doing the right thing at the right time.
mm, mm.
To trust it, you know?
I love this so much, Ku. Thank you. Thank you for the precision with which you articulate this. Thank you for the ferocity with which you embody this, and that this idea of making love to life is such a good analogy. It's not about control, it's about full presence, playing full out, full attention, and full surrender. And I love this. The deeper I go, the less choice I have, the more free I am. It's like there's a saying in the Vedas, which is render me choiceless. And it's not
Mm,
imprisonment. It's that
yeah,
the knowing is so clear
yeah,
that we are rendered choiceless. But I love that. I don't think that I had connected that to surrender. Because
yes.
true surrender is thy will be done.
Yes. Sometimes people think, oh, surrender, does that mean no, no, no. Sometimes surrender might mean you feel something. It's not what you thought you wanted, but if you're honest, it's true.
Mm,
You feel like go protest. You feel like, yeah, go okay, you feel but I don't want to, but this is what's true. Surrender is to follow that deeper impulse of your own inner being, not the
mm.
fleeting mood of your mind or your personality.
That's right. We don't want to surrender to the fleeting mood of the mind because then that can
All
be
over the place.
self-sabotage masquerading, but it's surrendering to the divine voice, to the divine knowing.
And so it
Um,
might mean that you sometimes do, it's strange as it sound, it might mean that you sometimes do some things that you don't feel like doing in the moment because there is a deeper commitment to a deeper truth.
yeah, and I think that's where the mastery comes in. You're not surrendering to like the eating the pound of ice cream
Yeah,
and watching the video games and getting high. Like
yeah,
that's not real surrender. That's not the divine will where you're in your highest frequency.
yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I know you have a retreat coming up. I know you take folks to Bali for what sounds like, I mean, my retreats are intense. Yours sounds really intense. 18-hour days, 12 days, which I'm like, yes, it sounds so good. But can you just give us a little sneak
All I'll
peek?
say is, look, if you're listening, I've done these really profound, intensive retreats for the last 15 years. I've done 24 of these profound journeys. It's called Boundless Bliss, 12 days. And it's an experiential seminar training without walls. I use Bali as the backdrop to really facilitate a profound healing process that is really designed to help people identify those hidden blocks and help you clear away the layers of conditioning that prevent you from being authentically yourself and
Mhm,
manifesting your purpose. And so
mm,
I do these events twice a year. This is my final year doing this type of journey. It's
mhm,
called Boundless Bliss. People can go to www.boundlessblissbali.com. And the next one is June the 26th through the July the 7th. It's
mhm.
12 days, and it's pretty life changing. So
Wow.
if you're someone who maybe you feel a deep calling to serve humanity in some way, and you feel that the time is now, and I invite you to consider.
Mm, wow. It sounds so good. I've never been to Bali. It's
Oh,
definitely on my radar. And I know the healing power of people coming together in beautiful lands with amazing
yes.
teachers. So thank you for offering this work. And I know you have a few books out. Do you want to just share the name of your books?
Yeah, the name of the books, the first one is You Are the One.
Mm,
It's available on Amazon. The second one is The Magic of Surrender,
there
which is
you
what
go.
why my jam.
Maybe maybe, why isn't everyone surrendering into magic? Maybe that'll be our.
There we
There we
go.
go. Wow, well, Kut, I love you so much. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us and your story with us and the new learnings with us. You're just such a delight and a gift, and I can't wait to meet your wife and meet your son. And sweet friends, if you have enjoyed this, if this conversation has inspired you, if you feel inspired to call your parents or love people more unconditionally, or just tune in and listen deeper so that you can surrender into the truth of the knowing of how nature wants to use you, then I invite you to screenshot this. You can tag us. I'm at Ziva Meditation. What's your handle, Coot? Are you on social?
Yes, at Kute Blackson,
Yeah.
Kute, at Kute Blackson, Kute Blackson.
Kute at Kute Blackson. Let us know what you learned. Like, we do this because we want to get these messages out in the world. So let us know what your ahas were. Leave us a review. And as always, I love you. I love you. I love you. And I will see you next week on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? Thank you, Coot. Goodbye, everyone.